Where D-Dot's new director faced
Hello. How y'all doing today? This your boy Leon Abington, 3000. Another video about O.J. Simpson passing. I want to know if you all remember the Bronco chase, 1994.
Thanks for joining us for
Here
the
we go,
News 4
y'all.
Rundown, our newscast streaming for you. I'm Leon Harris, and we begin with the big story of the day, the death of O.J. Simpson, one of the most popular and then polarizing celebrities this country has ever seen. His family made the announcement on O.J.'s Twitter account saying that he had died of cancer. America fell in love with O.J. for his football prowess. He was widely regarded as one of the greatest running backs of all time. But the perception of him as a sports star, actor, and broadcaster changed a decade and a half after his football career ended. Simpson arrested and charged for the murders of his former wife and her friend in 1994. The charges sparked a trial that was watched in millions of homes across the country.
Like I said before, people, everybody know that was her boyfriend. But when it comes to them, they always try to clean it up and say her friend. Back to the news.
And around the globe, NBC's Jay Gray starts off our team coverage with a look back at Simpson's unmatched career and the courtroom chaos that overshadowed it.
A Heisman Trophy winner and NFL Hall of Fame running back, O.J. Simpson, will be remembered most for something he could never run from. Born Orenthal James Simpson in 1947, he was raised by a single mom on the rough side of San Francisco. His way out? Football. A college star at USC, he was drafted by the Buffalo Bills, where he had a record-setting NFL career, including a league MVP. He retired as one of the best to ever play the game. And for O.J., the spotlight never dimmed.
Nobody does it better.
Transitioning into a successful career in TV and movies.
That's great.
He was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 1985, the same year he married his second wife, Nicole Brown. The couple had 2 children, but apparently a rocky marriage that included allegations of domestic abuse. Nicole Brown Simpson filed for divorce in February of 1992, and just over 2 years later, she and a friend, Ron Goldman, were found murdered in her Brentwood home.
Suspect may be driving a white or light-colored Ford Bronco.
5 days after the deadly attack driven by a former teammate, Simpson led officers on a low-speed chase across Los Angeles, threatening to take his own life before eventually surrendering to police. He was charged with murder. The court proceedings, dubbed the trial of the century,
if it doesn't fit, you must acquit.
lasted 9 months, every minute.
We, the jury, in the above entitled action, find the defendant Orenthal James Simpson not guilty of the...
On live TV.
Justice was not served.
Searching for that justice, the Goldman family won a civil suit. Simpson ordered to pay...
Stop it for a second, people. Take a minute, take a second, and try to remember where you was at when you heard the news that he was acquitted. Do you remember? The world was divided at that point in time. White Americans against black Americans. Back to it.
more than $33 million. He returned to court multiple times over the next several years for traffic violations, even pirating cable TV. But it was a Las Vegas robbery in 2008, Simpson saying he was taking back stolen personal property that ultimately sent him to prison.
Count 1, conspiracy to commit a crime. Guilty.
Sentenced to 33 years, he served just over 9.
Thank you.
Before being paroled in 2017. Jay Gray, NBC News.
I'm joined now by Chris Gordon, a familiar face to many of you, I'm hoping and I'm sure. He's a former court TV reporter and a former colleague of ours here at NBC4. He covered both the O.J. murder and the civil trial extensively. Both of those were moments where everyone can say, I knew where I was when.
Well, I was on the set doing anchoring the 5 o'clock news when all of a sudden we saw these helicopter shots out of L.A. on the freeway, and we were told O.J. is inside that Bronco with a gun being driven by a friend, that he is either, we didn't know, grieving or fleeing. And
Correction. He was not being driven by his son. he was being driven by a friend and another NFL football player.
And all of a sudden, there were people on the overpasses shouting for him. He arrived home and he was put in handcuffs. And we knew right then, this is an amazing story. He, of course, went to trial downtown LA. He had the dream team of defense lawyers, Johnny Cochran and Alan Dershowitz and F. Lee Bailey and so many of them. Prosecution side, Marsha Clark and Chris Darden. An amazing case. And then there were the...
Yes, I have to stop it for a second again. Isn't this very ironic? Everyone that was on that dream team, they had passed. That is very ironic. The team that he chose to get him acquitted, they all had passed within 3 years of him being acquitted. Make you want to say,
The elements of evidence, DNA, bloody gloves, one found at the crime scene, one found at O.J. Simpson's residence. What was that about? A bloody footprint, the print of a shoe at the crime scene with a victim's blood in it, and a knife which the prosecution was unable to tie to O.J. Simpson. And the defense attacked the DNA, attacked the gloves, and ended up with a not guilty verdict.
But they also attacked the LA Police Department.
Absolutely.
And what they did was they exposed something that a lot of the black people in Los Angeles have been complaining about for years, about the way that they said they were being treated by the LAPD and what they thought was the obvious racism that was rife throughout the entire department.
When the not guilty verdict came in, outside the courthouse, there was cheering and a celebration going on because there was a very large and strong contingent in favor of O.J.
All of the Dream Teamers went on to become famous in their own right. What did you make of that?
Well, first of all, there were...
yes, it was a celebration for Afro-Americans, and Caucasian Americans were very upset. They were arguing, they was cursing, they was using slander towards other Afro-American people. The world was divided at that time. So yeah, there definitely was a lot of division at that time.
We're all good lawyers, including on the prosecution side. I was told a story by Johnny Cochran. He told me that at one point, Marsha Clark, as people who watched the trial would have seen, would always come over and visit with him, be friendly with the Dream Team, with the defense, with the people representing Simpson. And I believe Chris Darden got upset, and he was angry. And he one day confronted Johnny Cochran. This story comes from Johnny. And he said, you know, I just may have Simpson try on those bloody gloves, one of which was found in the murder scene, one of which was found at O.J. Simpson. I may just have your client try on those gloves in front of the jury. And Johnny Cochran, without missing a beat, said, go ahead. You don't have blah, blah, blah to do that.
No kidding.
And so he baited him. Well, that was really a master stroke by Johnny Cochran.
It was the pivotal moment of the trial.
Because, as we all know, O.J. Simpson tried on the gloves. Wet gloves, with blood, could shrink. He was wearing latex gloves. He was an actor, and he struggled to put them on. And that led to the most famous line of all: if they don't fit,
you must
acquit.
Let me ask you this, because you had the eyes of a reporter and of a lawyer as you were watching this. When you see that the way the verdict came in, as quickly as it did, after the fact that that jury had been sequestered for months, what did you think at the time?
Well, I thought that they simply believed that O.J. Simpson was not proven to be guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. I mean, there was plenty of evidence, but not guilt beyond a reasonable doubt.
Looking back at it nearly 30 years later, how do you think that verdict has aged?
Well, I think it allows people to have their own view.
I agree with him. He was not proven guilty without a reasonable doubt. I totally agree with that. And the public steady convicted him after that trial. They had their own conclusion, they had their own thoughts, their own um, jurisdiction in their mind. They, a lot of Americans felt that he was guilty, and they treated him like he was guilty. A lot of reporters and a lot of people in general.
Anybody over dinner, if you're asked, would have a view of his guilt or innocence. And they'd be right. Because if you said he's not guilty, well, that was the verdict. When all the evidence was seen and heard and analyzed and cross-examined. At the same time, if you feel he did it, you have the civil verdict that says he was responsible for those murders.
This story, this event, this trial had everything. Fame, fortune. You had celebrities.
Now, how can you be found innocent and then be found guilty on a civil case? I don't understand that, but I'm not a lawyer. Hopefully he'll explain it.
You had a courtroom mystery. You had violence. And you had race. That combination of factors just made this such a unique moment in history. Do you think you really realized how big that was at the time?
You did, because as you say, right from the start, from that Bronco chase, from the arrest, people had opinions. It was the lead story every night here in Washington, Virginia, Maryland. That's the importance of the trial here in this area.
All right, Chris, I could talk about this all day with you. Thank you so much for coming in and sharing your insights.
Thank you for having me.
Now, as we just mentioned, it's almost impossible to think about O.J. Simpson without remembering the deaths of his ex-wife, Nicole Brown Simpson, and her friend, Ron Goldman. Their deaths were at the center of the wild Bronco chase, an eventual trial that captivated the entire country in the mid-90s. An NBC LA reporter recounts where he was during that chase, on the road in front of Simpson.
Mr. Simpson has not appeared.
Mr. Simpson is a fugitive of justice right now.
Then I went on the radio, and I remember somebody on the assignment desk said, "Yes, Conan, what is it? We're busy." And I said to them, "Well, listen, I'm in front of O.J. Simpson right now, and we're taking pictures out the rear view mirror, but if you want to, we'll just pull to the side if you're too busy."
This is our status. We are in front of O.J.'s vehicle. We've been trying to shoot it through the rearview mirror.
Under the vehicular code today, what I did would have been illegal. Imagine, cars have pulled to the side of the road on the freeway. The vehicle behind me is trailed by a dozen police units, lights and sirens, code 3.
It's almost like a motorcade.
It was being broadcast, television, radio, and all of a sudden it took on this life, the likes of which we'll never see again and never saw it before.
Followed by, again, a dozen black and white lights.
Now just think, if that wasn't O.J. Simpson, they would have shot that vehicle up. Just like they've been doing in the last 8 to 10 years. Shooting black pedestrians that's running from the law or had anything to do with parking tickets or speeding tickets being pulled over. They just pull their guns out and shoot them and kill them. But if that wasn't O.J. Simpson, he would have been killed.
He was waving frantically with his left arm as he was driving. It was as if he was showing the officers where he was intended on going.
If you didn't know this case was special before this pursuit, you did after it. You realize that this is a case like none other.
You can watch the full segment on the O.J. Simpson Freeway Pursuit on NBCLosAngeles.com. It's part of NBC LA's original series, I Was There When. Look for O.J. Simpson Chase at the top of the page there. We are bringing you complete coverage here following O.J. Simpson's death. You can find local reaction and more key moments from the trial of the century on our website, NBCWashington.com. Just search O.J. Simpson. All right, time now.
Yes. You know, it was a sad day then. 2 lives was taken back in 1994. Nicole Brown Simpson and her boyfriend, Ron Goldman. 2 lives was taken. That was a sad, tragic death. O.J. was accused of the murder. He was acquitted. And they did not like that at all, that he was acquitted. And as time went on, they found bogus charges to lock him up years later. And they made him do 10 years in prison. So I'll get back with you all. I always got more. I always got more. May O.J. Simpson rest in peace. May his ex-wife rest in peace. And her boyfriend rest in peace. And may God bless us all and cover us all with the blood of Jesus, because we all need prayer, love, peace, and soul